Welcome everyone to the reflections on the 12 steps. Just a friendly announcement. This is not an AA meeting. This is just one member's view on the exact nature of the wrong as described on page 64 of the big book and the solutions contained within. This is not an all-share meeting, so shares there will be, but actually a question-answer meeting with Paul. I have chosen today from page 47, We Agnostics, and I start more or less in the middle of the page. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. That was great news for us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seemed difficult to believe. When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes. But I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. So it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. Yeah, that was it.
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, they talk about faith once again, but here we needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? Well, yeah, you're under an occupation seemingly of a power greater than you already, which is addiction, yes? That's why in the third step, it's you make a decision because you can't turn your will and your life over to the higher power because it's not in your care. You've been taken over by something. So that's why after you make this decision, you take action, which are the working steps, 4 through 9, to sort of break the bondage to the lower power that has taken you over and open yourself up to be taken over by a higher power. But as they say, when they say there's a new employer, that means there was an old employer, and to employ means to use, really. So something is using us, we're not using something. That's the attitude. So I'm not using God to get out of a situation. God's using me to bring light into a situation. Yes, it's just a different way of looking at things. But without knowing it would be a great form of occupation by a lower power. A power that doesn't have much power has to have a lot of guile, yeah? And it has to have the ability to convince the host to stay to not move so it can just keep sucking the host's life out, yeah? So the parasite, knowing its own hostility, yeah, has to come up with a strategy. How can I neutralize the natural drive of the host to escape me? Yes. It convinces the host that it's the host. Yeah. So now you're listening to the parasite and you think it's you talking. And it tells you, I have a resentment, which is true. It has a resentment. You take it as I have a resentment, which is not true. The resentment has you. Yeah. So self has a resentment, and then the resentment has you. How does it have you? By calling it your resentment. Yeah. It's simple diagnosis. It's very simple. Yeah. The key here is a simple understanding that the exact nature of the wrong is foreign to you. Yeah. Because if you don't see that, you're going to try to be free as self. Yeah. When the freedom is from self. Yeah. So why do you think in our community something that's not out of the book has stuck for so long, which is the statement self can't get out of self. Because a lot of people entered the same program we did, and observing themselves for a number of years, they realized something was going on, which was self was trying to get out of self. Yeah. And they realized self can't get out of self, and they passed it on to us so that we, maybe with that understanding, can see that form of bondage of self, which is trying to get out of something you're not in, as that something you're not in. Yeah. This is the point. The point is the exact nature of the wrong is foreign to us. Therefore, the possibility of truly being free from it is available. And so it goes, yeah? So here, we needed to ask ourselves, but one, I would say a couple of questions. Short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? And if so, have you been taken over by a power right now? Yeah. Because if there wouldn't be 4 through 9 if you could have just done step 3. Yeah. Your life and will was under your control. You decided to give that up and you gave it over to the higher power. But it's not under your control, obviously. When you're in active addiction, something has taken you over. Yeah? So you can say, I'm never going to do this and vow, and it doesn't work. You're powerless because it has a different agenda than yours, and it's imposing its agenda on you. So while you're saying, I'm going to swear today I'm never going to do something, you do it in an hour. Yeah? Because you're in the dilemma of powerlessness. You're assuming something that isn't true. First of all, we're assuming a lot that isn't true. And the assumption is that you're making decisions, but really, they say in the book, there's decisions based on self that are made. Yeah? That's different than you're making a decision. You're making a decision is different than a decision based on self. And most of us have been living at the effects of decisions based on self. And every time the consequences arise, we think we were done to or we did it. Yeah. So the thief gets away from all the crimes because what the police stop is the car that drove him to the bank. They don't catch the bank robber, they catch the vehicle, which is us. Yeah. You're driven. Driven means you're not the driver. What's the condition that we're in? We're driven, but we believe we're the driver. The parasite has us by the gonads. Yeah. It's compelling actions through us that we take the fall for. Yeah. And some people, there's no statute of limitations in your head. None. After something you did and it's 12 years later, your head still goes back to it. 40 years later, still goes back to it to mine some guilt and shame. Yes? That mine, M-I-N-E, is open for as long as you stay alive. It keeps going there. The shit just falls off the fucking walls. Yeah. Oh, do you remember when you did this and did that? Yes. But because you remember what you did, but you don't remember something compelled you to do it. That's the dilemma. That's the misunderstanding. Oh, we understand that we're fucked at some point, but we don't know it's This happened with me. I'm telling you. I came into AA 1988. Tomorrow, I think Friday, it'll be 37 years. Came into AA totally, that addiction puts you in a cocoon that you can see through. So you don't see the cocoon. Yeah. You're looking through a cocoon of terminal uniqueness. You truly believe that no one thinks like you do, no one feels like you do, no one's done the crazy shit that you've done. Yeah. And that can go on pretty uninterrupted unless you get introduced to a way of life that people who have been taken over by the same thing meet. Because when we go to the car lot and we gather together as drivens, as cars, and then we talk about the driver, the familiarity, the commonality becomes obvious. Yes? Wait a minute. These people seem to have gotten my thoughts. How did they get my thoughts? Because they weren't your thoughts, yeah? They were alcoholic thoughts. They weren't your reactions, they were alcoholic reactions, yeah? They weren't your behaviors, they were alcoholic behaviors that have been categorized. We know what they're like because there's been so many of us have been taken over by the same thing that we have an idea of it, yeah? So like in Narcotics Anonymous, they talk about the 3 parking spaces most people end up, which is institution, jails, and death. Every damn car that gets brought to that parking space thinks they drove itself there. Every fucking one of us think we did it. Yeah? Yet it's so funny that we, all these unique characters, did it, and we did the same thing all these other unique characters did. That's not a uniqueness, is it? That's a commonality. Yeah? Yeah. I spent 2 years in a program called Delancey Street in San Francisco, 85 to 87, 24/7. Ran my life. 2 years. Didn't like those people that much, didn't like the principles. Yet I had to admit begrudgingly that my life looked better with them running it than it ever did with me running it. And none of those people had much of a vested interest in me. And I had a huge vested interest in me. Yeah. And none of those people ever saw me as Paul. They saw me as an addict. And when they talked to me as an addict, I took offense at that because I heard it as Paul. Yes? But they luckily did not see me as Paul, and they knew exactly what was the dominant theme in this life, and there wasn't Paul involved. I was a run-of-the-mill addict, yes? Washed up alcoholic addict. And they never deviated from that view, and it was the best thing I ever had happen for 2 years, yeah? So I came out of there, and I knew what surrender was. I had surrendered to Delancey Street. Yeah. But I also found out through surrendering many times in life, the effect of the surrender is based on truly what you surrender to. Yeah. And like it or not, there's a grace in recovery. And I humbly believe you will be reintroduced to a higher power. Yeah. And in an appropriate manner by just following our suggestions and our way of life a day at a time. Yeah. You're going to become free from the bondage of self, which is the point. Yeah. And what is that going to look like? I don't know, but it'll be a joy to find out wherever you are. Yeah. And then when you hear the term, something has done for me what I couldn't do for myself, you'll feel a lot of gratitude because something got you sober, which no one else could do. I hope you apply that same view to the lower power and start giving it the accountability for what you did instead of constantly going over a false responsibility after 40 years of sobriety. I hope. Yeah, I can only hope. And you can put it out there every freaking week with the hope that because the freedom from the bondage of self, a lot of it is going to have to do with time. Yeah. It loves to draw you back into the past by thinking about a lot of old shit. Yes. Because that's where it's the higher power. In the past and the future, there is no God other than itself. And it plays God a lot in the past and the future. The present moment is where it's always stumped, yes? Because there's a presence of a higher power. And just like any other dog that's been masquerading as the big dog while being a small dog, it's going to roll over when the big dog shows up. And the higher power is the big dog. Being all powerful, it's going to take care of us if we perform its works well and stay close to it. So you have a guarantee, yeah, not that you're going to be financially secure or whatever, but you're going to lose the financial insecurities. Yes, you're going to feel like when you start the day that you're in good hands instead of feeling very anxious and fucking worried that shit's not going to work out because you have a lot of evidence it doesn't work out. Yeah. Any life run on self-will is hardly going to be a success is a huge understatement of AA. Hardly be a success. Yeah. You could draw it in a much more flamboyant way, what a life run on self-will is going to look like. Yes. Let's say impossible, incomprehensible, pitiful demoralization could be one of the stops on that little train track. So here, yes, we needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or I am willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? That's step 2, yeah? Step 2 is an observational step. It says you've already seen enough that you have come to believe already that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity, concerning the insanity that precedes the first drink. That's the promise of AA, really, is to replace the insanity that precedes the first drink with a sanity. Because this is not about stopping, it's not starting. You just don't start drinking anymore. You don't. No starting. So you don't have to have tons of ways of how to stop. You don't start. Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. So as soon as a man can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. Exactly. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderful, effective spiritual structure can be built. But it's going to take action. Yes? Willingness without action is going to die on the vine. Willingness that spurs action, and AA has a plan of action, a design for living. It does. It's been used thousands and millions of times. It's super solid. It produces the goods, yeah, but its effects are completely determined on the patients. Yeah, if you don't want it, you're gonna go to your first meeting, and after 5 minutes, you think you know what AA is all about. Yeah, you will. This is what the head does. Yeah. Oh, I know what that's about. No, you have no idea. You have no idea what it's about. So, yeah, that was great news to us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith, which seemed difficult to believe. Do you know when you say you don't have any faith, that's faith? Yeah. When you say, "Oh, I don't believe anything," that's faith. That's what it is. You can't get you can't get you come after the effects of faith. You're not before the effects of faith. Yeah. Faith is a vital quality here, like gravity, like dark matter. It's faith is what moves mountains. Yeah. Faith is what makes hell out of a place or heaven out of a place. Yeah. Faith is what has you believing what was the worst thing that ever happened. And then faith is what shows you that it was the best thing that ever happened. Yeah. Faith. And there's a part in page 53. Let's go there and we agnostics, if you don't mind. Very important. This idea of faith. We're not talking about a denomination. We're not talking about a constructed church or anything. We're talking about faith. Did you not believe faith in your ability to reason was what caused your defeat? He says it beautifully right here. It goes, it's on page 52, 53. No, bottom of 53. He's just been talking for paragraphs about with agnostic people and stuff. trying to make it easy for them just to enter the program. And because they have great faith, if you just enter the program, you're going to realize it works. So they're just trying to get people in with, and trying to let them come in with their considerations and their fucking ideas. Yeah. So, but let us think a little more closely without knowing it. This is what a parasite does to the host. It takes the host over and the host doesn't know it. Yeah. The host is living as if it suddenly turned into a parasite, which it never did. It's just taking itself to be that which is defeating it. Yes, this is the dilemma. Without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. Yeah. So where we stood is a pretty big statement, yeah, because you're standing every day somewhere, right? And he's basically saying wherever, without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood, wherever or whatever that is, by a certain kind of faith. This is the absolute influence I believe faith is, yeah? Yeah. For did we not believe in our own reasoning? I humbly have an intimate feeling of this. The thoughts I had, there was a huge amount of faith in the thoughts that were happening in my head while I was out there. Incredible. So, did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful, and someone was nice enough to give us a definition of abjectly. Abjectly means spiritless servility. Wow, isn't that an incredible? Don't you feel it captures sometimes how you've been feeling? Spiritless servility. I would be just doing whatever, and then the head would drop a thought, cocaine, and the spiritless servility would kick in. Usually I didn't have any money, so I'd have to start trying to convince people to give me money or front me coke and on, and it just kept on going. Yeah. A minute before that thought, I was involved. I was thinking maybe I'd go to the beach and surf. Cocaine, just like that. Incredible. Spiritless servility. Spiritless servility. And what is our solution but a spiritual solution? What is one of the deep conditions of the problem? A spiritless servility. You're enslaved. Yeah. You are in the bondage of something. Wow. I love that. Ooh. Wouldn't that be a beautiful topic if you were in a group of newcomers at some rehab? Let's talk about spiritless servility. Yeah. And if you started describing what it would look like, I'm sure they would notice it. Yeah. Because some of them would be exactly in that condition at that moment. Spiritless servility with their arms crossed, being completely disinterested, hoping to have a cigarette soon. Yeah. Not knowing that their mannerisms are produced by a parasite in a sense. They're not their mannerisms. Their defiance and their defense against the message is the parasite's fucking defense system. Yeah? And their life is shriveling up and they're fucking young. And they're in they're in spiritless servility. Yeah. Can you imagine if they could match how they're feeling with that statement? Yeah. So, did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. this is the same God they're talking about when they say you got to quit playing God. Yeah, it's not that you are playing God. Something is playing God, and there's got to be a loss of interest in that. Yeah, I believe the program produces that loss in interest in that which is playing God. I do. Yeah, and when you stop listening to it, you're going to listen to something else. And that something else has a much better plan for you than the previous employer. Yeah, because the previous employer wants you to be in abject, spiritless servility. Wow. So we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. So in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. When you make the decision to turn your will and your life over, you're also making a decision to have something else to direct the faith in your life. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the old employer and the new employer are quite different at how they direct faith. Yeah. And people here who have been directed by that faith, governed by the higher power, have lived the demonstration of the relief from the bondage of self. Yeah. That faith, that trusting finite self was broken, and now you trust the infinite. Yes. Both conditions, there's trust, either in this or that. And therefore, it's not the trust you're concerned about, really, it's the this or that. Because you are faith. You are. Yeah. It's what it's in is how it's going to manifest. We know what it looks like when there's faith in self. We had enough of that, I hope. And then you're going to have a wonderful time finding out what it looks like when there's faith in the higher power. You really are. You're going to learn how to face life successfully. You'll find yourself having an ability that you believed you had lost or never had, which is to have a viable relationship with another person, or at least a dog or a cat or a plant or something. And these things, you will see that you can face life successfully by finally facing life. Yeah. And all the playing God of the head that, it's not going to work anyway. All the believing in an outcome before you even did anything will be broken. Yeah. And you'll get out of the outcome business, and you'll just put your left foot in front of your right foot and go a day at a time. And maybe find joy in it. Yeah. Instead of abject, spiritless servility. So, yeah, here we go. To me, this is one of the greatest statements that usually doesn't get emphasized in book studies, yeah? Because as he says here, as he just says, wherever you find yourself, it had a lot to do with faith. I mean, that's what they're saying in the big book, not us. We're agreeing, but we did not write this in. This is what they said, yeah? Every book study I ever went to, I never saw it emphasized, ever. It just would go right across it and keep on going. This is worthy to stop at, yeah? Because if before you and your interest in this and that, there is faith, yeah? And faith is going to dictate where you go, and you've seen where you've been taken before by what something can do with faith. To me, it just shines the apple on that tree of surrender. Yes, it just fucking does it. Yeah. Admit that you're outmatched, you're not managerial quality, and see what happens. Yeah. Yeah. You can always start again and then go through the process of stopping, or you may find a new home in not starting. Yeah. And maybe a whole life will come after that. Who knows? Yeah. So, all right. I guess that's it with that. So that's on page 53 to 54 on We Agnostics. What kind of faith is that? Didn't you have faith in the thoughts that's told you that you had to have cocaine, or you had to do this, or you had to do that, or you'll just fucking die if you don't get it? Yeah. So you rob your. Once I robbed my girlfriend's silverware from her grandmother. Yeah. Now she realized the silverware was missing, and she would ask me, "Do you know anything about the silverware?" And I would swear, "No, no." She went on this for months, and unbeknownst to me, she knew that I stole the silverware that day because she talked to the dealer who I sold the silverware to. But for months and months, I would just deny it, just lie straight to her face. And she was just amazed at how long I could go. And she told me once, she said, "Paul, I talked to Jimmy, and he told me you sold him the silverware." So it's insane, eh? Insane shit. So, all right, well, let's open it up. You have any question? If you're new to this meeting is not an AA meeting, obviously. It's just a meeting of people who feel that the exact nature of the wrong is foreign to us, which opens the possibility of truly being free from it. You cannot be free as it. Good luck. Self cannot get out of self. Go bang your head against the wall enough, you'll come to this conclusion. We're trying to save you some time. Yeah. Self can't get out of self. The act of disease is the act of being identified as self. You are not in that act, you're under its influence. You are not doing the act of being identified as self. You're under its influence without knowing it. Yeah. Without knowing it, you're completely under the influences of the head's act of being identified as self. You are not doing it, but you're under the influence of it greatly, greatly, because that faith that you are has been directed to the head, and misperceptions and resentments and fears and anxieties. Yeah. And faith is so powerful, it can override what's happening with what's not happening. And most of us are in that condition. We are not responding to this moment, we're reacting to thoughts about yesterday and tomorrow. That's slavery. That's bondage. Yes? You're here now, but you can't seem to be here now because your head is in there and then, and there's great faith in the head. So you're overriding the here and now with the there and then. And the head is having a field day. It is playing God with our ass. It is. You wake up, it tells you how the day's going to be, and you believe it. That's faith, babe. Yeah. People try to love you. You believe you're unlovable. You fight them off. You deny it. You blow it up. You don't let anything fucking grow because you don't believe you deserve it. That's faith. That's faith in the head. Yes? That's faith. You have faith that you did so much you'll never deserve a good break, and therefore the most irritated you'll be is when you're in the solution because you're familiar with the problem. Yeah. Faith. Faith. Yeah. What does it say? Ye of little faith. None of us are of little faith. We're the effects of misdirected faith. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. So I know that now. I saw what faith can do in the head. I saw it. I got dragged over those coals for years. Getting run over twice in one night wasn't sufficient to correct it. Tons of fucking months in hospitals. Having a constant reminder of a fucking decision based on self made in 1980, the night I got run over, because I still have trouble from that event. Yes? Constant reminder of the insanity of faith in the head. Constant reminder every day. Yeah. Some things are easily corrected, other things aren't. Some things are going to land you with a 20-year prison sentence. Yeah. Some things, you play a game and then you've gotten some consequences, and then one of them just is huge. Like, yeah, I had no understanding of how bad it could be getting run over by a car until I got run over by a car. Yeah. And I investigated it, and I had faith in the head. I was already at home. The night was over. It told me a big party had erupted in this bar. I drove back to the bar, never made it across the street. I was hoping to meet a girl. I met a Chevy Monte Carlo, and bam, whacked, and then it changed my physical life for the rest of my physical life. Changed it. Yeah. How many other decisions based on self and how many other consequences were fueled by faith? Yes. Wow. Yeah. I admitted that I was defeated. I made a decision to turn my will and life over to the care of a higher power, and I did the working steps. And then that decision got some meat behind it by doing the working steps. And the only way I could probably live a day at a time was having great faith in the higher power, because I had no faith in the lower power. None. My faith was incredible amount of anxiety every time I woke up thinking it was going to manage my life that day. Yes? I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. So, yeah. Some people feel like they don't have any faith. That's a mistake. It was what they had faith in was the problem. Yes? Faith is still beautiful and untouchable, but sometimes there's an idea about the faith as being bogus, but it isn't. It's the vehicle that it was put in. Yeah. So when I came in, I didn't trust myself as far as I could throw me. Yeah. The parasite had convinced me that I was untrustworthy, and so was so many other things. It used faith to produce an incredible amount of anxiety. And over time, I learned I could face life successfully. And I recognized the faith is just like a neutral energy. It's really given a polarity by what it's put in. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like it or not, there's a force or a grace in recovery. There is. I've been introduced to a lot of spiritual people, groups. There is a juicy invitation, always put out in an open hand for people such as us to come in from the fucking rain. Yeah. And there's power behind it. There's a power. You know, it's like it says, you take one step, it takes 1,000 steps for you. Something uh, is glad to have you back in a way. It's got an oomph to see you succeed. Yeah. Yeah. Now your head may not have that, but this thing can outshine circumstances and situations, the faith that we are. Yeah. Just put it in good hands. And then watch what it builds. You're going to have to come to you're going to be convinced that this works because it does. Yeah. I haven't thought of strongly about drinking or using for 37 years. The problem does not exist for me today. It doesn't. And it doesn't exist as me. That was the real key. Yeah. So there you go. Anyone? Let's open it up.
Yes, there is two. There was Annette. I don't know if Annette has still a question.
Sure. Just, it's not really a question, but in the beginning when you started, Paul, I wrote this down. The idea of bringing light to a situation rather than like having that expectation to get something,
Yeah.
get light.
Yes. It's an
And,
attitude.
yeah.
It's an attitude and outlook, and it's a new one. This is what comes about. That's some of the promises. You'll have a new attitude and outlook in life. You will see it differently. That's an example of it. Yeah. People stop going to meetings because they're not getting anything out of it, and then they realize, well, maybe I'm putting something into it. Yeah. Yeah. So now they realize just being there they're being used for service. Yeah. So they had the old attitude of what can I get out of it? Now it's been replaced with a new attitude. What can I put into it? Like it says, what can we contribute to life instead of what can we get from life? That is a shift in a new attitude and in our new outlook. That is the effect of the program, living the principles of the program. Many of us have had that effect. Yeah. We look at things differently. You're always going to be looking at things. You are. But to look at things differently, yeah. Everyone wants to change things. Some things you can't change, but you can see that differently. Yeah. And this is where the program really works out. It works out where the root of the problem lies, which is in the head. So this is where we get a new attitude and outlook, a new freedom and a new happiness. Yeah. Freedom isn't I can do anything what I want. That's not what it is. Freedom is I'm able to fit myself around circumstances instead of constantly trying to fit them around me. Yeah. That's freedom. Yeah. So, yeah, this is all part of it. These things are said, but that said echoes into a sense feltness. You live it after a while. Yeah. This is why when you say it, you have so much meaning, not because of the statement itself, but the living of the effects of the statement. I feel a new attitude and a new outlook and a new freedom and new happiness. And it's beautiful because it's not like a revamped or a rehab old attitude. It's a completely new one. Yeah. So you're seeing from new eyes. You have not corrected the eyes. You're seeing from new eyes. Yes. Have you ever thought of something and then you say, all right, let me see if I can think of it another way? It's sort of like moving an arthritic wheel on a cart. Like sometimes you go to the store and you get a cart and it's got those everyone can hear you coming. It hasn't been worked on. Yeah, this is sort of what it's like. You sit here, the head it doesn't have many options. Yeah. We need to be blessed with a new way of vision. It's not going to really learn a new way of vision. Yeah. It's binary. It's either this or that to it. It's either I do this or I do that. It doesn't see an inclusivity. You have to experience an inclusivity to get out of the habit of looking at that as or either this or that. Yeah? Yeah. If you're a real addict, an alcoholic, or whatever it is, just a person under the influence of an addictive nature, where the head originally is addicted to this idea of you, uh, these principles work. Yeah. They point out the misunderstandings and they confront them with a new understanding. And perhaps there is a better way becomes a living event. Yeah. You're now trusting the infinite rather than finite self, not as Paul, but as faith. I have faith in the infinite that I do not have in the finite self. I do. Yeah. I have learned enough about the finite self that its finiteness limits its understanding and comprehension and expression. So fuck it. Just like in AA when they say, make a higher power of your own understanding. The higher power of my own understanding got switched to a higher power of its own understanding very quickly. And that has never changed in 36 years. Yeah. I walked in, I heard what they said. If you have trouble with God, have a higher power of your own understanding. Why would I want to have that? I have a lower power of my own understanding. I don't want, yeah, no, I want to have something of its own understanding because I have a feeling its understanding is much larger and greater than my understanding. So let's give this up and all right, you download me what you need me to know instead of me thinking I know what I need to know. Yeah. It's worked. So,
Paul.
yeah.
So what I've been noticing that, recently is right in line with what you're talking about is, so like I follow that train of, I won't even call it thinking, but that idea of my understanding, a God of my understanding, forget that. But and even beyond that, and what I've been sort of, I guess you could say, suffering from one layer at a time, year after year, the description of that person that it takes experience to be surrendered, I guess, is that that the addiction to attachment, like the the deal that I was looking for to give my light is that I need a guarantee, I need a demonstration, so not, and I'm saying that's getting seemingly undone, thank God, because, there's an extreme supposed situation that's happening and seemingly, that I've created, and my part in it is that remembering, just
Your part,
remembering.
remembering what?
Remembering.
That's your part in it? Well, let's not get into specifics, but
Yeah. No, I mean like remembering who I am, what is really
oh,
in
yeah.
charge. It's
Really
hard to
remember who you're not.
okay.
Remember
Well,
who
that's
you're,
what happens first. That's
yeah,
what happens first. But I
yeah.
can't explain it. It's almost like the perception is that I'm literally walking in a fire and it's not time to walk out yet. It's just it just literally the way it's manifested is that there's another flame and another flame and another flame. These are consequences. It is what it is. And I'm literally challenged at each flame to be like remembering, who I really am. Even though I'm seeing in the moment how I got here, what my part of it was.
Well, there you go. This is facing life successfully.
It is.
The
Not
flames are
alone though.
finite.
That's
The
what's
flames,
different though.
the flames are finite, though. This too
hmm
shall pass.
What I suppose is different is that because what I've always held on to is the God of my own understanding. Like I've got this on my own. Whatever flame should throw at me, I got it. But seemingly it's not. I was literally quote so at the end of my rope. Each
Yeah.
moment is a challenge not to perceive it as the end of my rope and to remember, like just the little things that come to me from the you know?
You know what's nice, honey? It's the end of its rope, and you'll see your rope is much, much, much longer.
Yeah, that sense is coming. It comes, it's like it comes. It's so real and obvious. And then another flame appears. It's there.
So, like this thing with God, let's say, they say God will never give you more than you can handle. You could also see that God will never give you more than it can handle. Hmm? So when you believe you can't handle something, it can. So God may give you more than you can handle, but God will never give you more than it can handle. Yeah?
Yes,
You
and that's the challenge to be like, even this, you got this. And that's what's going on.
know, honey, I remember when I got run over, I wasn't a practitioner of faith or anything, but there was a faith. in that event quite a lot. And I remember I was really fucked, and an aunt of mine came to visit me, and she bent her head over and whispered in my ear, you know, God wouldn't have done this unless he has a plan for you. And that little thing really inspired me. Yeah, it really upped my spirit a little at that moment because I was pretty down. And meaning didn't matter if it's true or not. It's what was done with it, which was. But there was a faith in me that even though the head was flipped out, that you know, I was in. I never thought of dying or killing myself or anything. It was just an amazing experience of being physically completely powerless. Unbelievable, 24/7. Just talk about flames. Every freaking, it was just, I didn't feel like it was ever going to stop in a sense. And I remember it broke me one day. I was in this, do you mind? I'll tell you a little story. Yeah, this is, so uh, I was in intensive care. It's a different event, yeah, when you're in a hospital. So I was in this intensive care place, and it was a really weird room, and there was 2 rows of people, and then you turned, and there was a place that they had giant shower curtains, and it was triage, yeah. So when someone got whacked really bad, they'd bring them in there. And then there was a nurse across from that. There was a nurse station I couldn't see from the bed I was in, but and people were just moaning and crying. It's very, very intense in a sense. So I was there, and I just had like a 14-hour operation or something like that, a long thing. And I was laying there completely awake, yeah, but no, can't move at all physically, but I'm awake, wide awake. And all this stuff is going on, these people crying, and it gets yeah, whatever. So suddenly there's a commotion, and they bring these people in on stretchers, and a lot of blood, and they bring it to the triage, and I can sort of see it, and they're working on these 2 bodies, and it must have had a very bad thing. And then suddenly these parents came in, or people came in, and they stopped right in front of my bed. Like I'm like a fly on the wall. There's no acknowledgement that there's any person or living there. And the doctors meet these 2 people right at my bed, uh, at the foot of the bed. And they're telling one of them that the kid died. One of the people died and the other didn't die. And they were breaking the news like this. It was a really weird situation. And it was just, and I was like a fly on the wall. It just flipped me out completely. Just I had had enough. And I remember my sister came the next morning. You could only go like once, family member. And I came in and I just told her it had broken me, and yet more kept coming. Yes. And so in that situation, God did for me what I could not do for myself. Millions of moments, millions of moments. I mean, millions. The stretch or the finite length of my head had come to its end many, many fucking times. And yet it kept going. And it was in one way, very, very demoralizing. In another way, that has panned out in my life, it was a faith builder, really, something, because I had yelled no mas thousands of times. I had it. I was in a hospital bed for 10 months. I was just fucking over. And yet something did for me and does for me and does for you and will do for you what you cannot do for yourselves. Just admit the condition you find yourself in. You're being directed, you're being used. What the hell is using you, and what the hell is directing you? Because that is what's going to make the difference. You thinking you're not being used is insane. You're being used. Yeah? This is what happens. You are like a sail that does not move the boat without wind in it. The wind is faith. Yeah. Yes. So it isn't like I'm going to never be used. You're being used. What is going to use you is the key. You've had enough of being used by the head, I hope. I hope. You have enough of it being, and how it uses you is its act of playing God. It's playing God. Yeah. Now we've been introduced to a new employer, being all powerful. It's going to take care of us. If your performance works well, which is pretty vague, and stay close to it, which is it's everywhere. How can you be far from it? The head convinces you that you're far from something you cannot be far from. This is faith in the head. Tell the truth about the faith in the head, and there will be a migration of that faith into something that is worthy of faith. Yes? Just start telling the truth about what you're not. Stop chanting what you are as what you're not. Just see what you're not. Yeah? Listen to the description of self and maybe recognize it's not you. And its activity resides in the head. Yeah. Yeah. And then that faith that dug a huge hole for you will bring you into the light. It's the same power. It's just what's directing it. Yeah. It's either being used to enslave you through the direction of the lower power or enrich you by, I humbly believe, the direction of the higher power. That's how it goes. Yes. So, all right. Anyone else?
Yes, we have here Darshan Upadhyaya. He has his hand up, but I can't see him. Darshan? No,
Hey,
I
can you
don't
hear
know.
me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul. So actually, I'm gonna be in Novato for I have to drop off some snowboarding gear, and I know like your meeting today, the one I think at 4:30, it's not like a public meeting like the one on Saturday, but I was wondering if I could come by for it.
Yes, sure.
And do you have somewhere to contact? Because I actually got to San Francisco on Saturday, and I wanted to go to the one on Saturday, but then when I went on the website,
Oh, yeah,
the
we
event
fixed
wasn't
that.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, we fixed that. Sometimes it doesn't trigger the next week, so that's all. That's done. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, you can come by here. Just come by around 4, whatever, after.
Okay.
Yeah, and then hang out.
Sounds good. See you soon, buddy.
You have my address?
Yeah, it's the Wilmac one, right?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, we'll see
Okay.
you here.
Cool. See you soon. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Paul, here's also Gabe Campbell.
All right, Gabe. If you want asking me to borrow money, we can do that after the meeting. All right.
Come on, just one more time. Just one more time. Anyway, it's good to be here. Yeah, it's a quick question.
Yeah.
Going in and out. Was there one word for the spiritless servitude? Was that the definition of a word, or was that just a
It's
saying?
the definition of the abjectly, ABJECTLY, abject.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the definitions of abjectly. So when it
abjectly.
says you've been abjectly faithful, it's talking about, and it describes being abjectly faithful as spiritless servility, which is unbelievable. So
Like abject poverty, kind of.
that's
Like
like
in a
abject poverty, exactly.
spiritual poverty. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate the meeting.
yeah, you're welcome, man. Yep. Yep. Spiritual poverty. But see, you're rich in spirit. What causes you to believe you're in poverty is the mental state. Yeah. It is. That's what happens. Sometimes you believe you're fucked and then you're unfucked in a half a second. How real was the being fucked? Yes? You know, you're 9 in the morning, you're in heaven. 9:02, it's Armageddon day. You know, it's the head is insane. Yeah, yeah. It's playing God, and it can only play God with us. Our God-like juice is being used for it to. How can next week have an effect on you? Right now, things that are happening are having an effect on you. That's happening, but in the head, which should be the most minimal effect, because it's actually not happening where we can feel it, taste it, touch it, smell it. Yes, grab it. Yeah, but no, the faith in the head makes that which doesn't even appear now to me be more important than that which is appearing now. That's insane. Yeah. So it's important to know what power looks like. Yeah, and what power looks like when it's being wielded by one thing and or wielded by another. The contrast is very, very strong in recovery, which is the power being wielded by trust in self and the power being wielded in trust in the infinite has completely different effects, but it's the same principle. Yeah. Yet the effects are incredibly different. We've learned, hopefully, from trusting finite self. This is the point, is to gain knowledge of what we're not by looking at how we lived as if we were that. Yeah. This is the value of it. The value of failure is to see that that which you relied on is a failed system. Any life run on self-will will hardly be a success is a very comprehensive statement in the big book of AA. Yeah. Any life run on self-will, not your will, not God's will, but self-will. Any life run on self-will will hardly be a success. That's a huge understatement. It could be fucking terrible. Yeah. So these things are profound. You recognize that which has defeated you as not you. Instead of being in the condition of the hate getting so weird that you hate yourself, it's mind-boggling. Yeah, or you're your own worst enemy. Can you imagine that? Oh, out of billions of people, seemingly, I and I alone am my own worst enemy. That's freaking insane. Yeah. I hate myself. Who's at that dinner table? Who's the one that's hated and who's the one that's hating? Yeah. I seems like to be the hater, hate myself. What's the hated? It's you also. Yeah. So you're the hater and the hatee. You're the driven and you're the driver. You see it? That aberrant pattern is everywhere in self. Yeah. The driven is taken to be the driver. Yeah. The hater is taken to be the hated. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for showing up. And yeah. Remember, rule 62, don't take yourself so seriously. Yeah, you can't take it more serious than being you. That's the most serious you can take self to be. Self-reliance failed us. This is the cause of fear and anxiety. Self-reliance failing us. Yeah, it's not like it did it personally. Self-reliance fails. Us has not, it's just going to fail. It's not you personally. Self-reliance fails. Why are you in so much fear today? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed you? Yeah, exactly. So the big cause of fear is seen as an effect of something else. The effect is self-reliance. That's the diagnosis. Take the attention off the fear, look at self-reliance. Self-reliance is the Petri dish where all this mental anxiety grows. You're relying on something that's unreliable, and it produces agitation and dis-ease and discomfort in the system. Now, yeah. It's all right. Thanks so much. Let me say goodbye to everyone. Michael, Stacy, as always. Always a pleasure to see Michael. Your head's cut off from this bar. I can't change right now. Kathy, that ain't a bad idea though. Everyone's head cut off. Kathy, nice to see you. Al, Vegas. Yeah. Steve Cole, San Diego. Alex, nice to see you, Alex. Mickey, our eternal greeter. Rico Cruz, a man of his word. Matthew in the UK. Martin, thank you, Martin. Martin does a wonderful job keeping the ship afloat and directed in the keeping it on course. So thank you so much, Martin. Yeah. Miss Folkman, doing a great job, honey. Tom L., Tacoma, Washington. Dhruv, nice to see Dhruv. Marl, as always. Wabi Bukowski. Wow, very nice. Nice to see you, Wabi. Teresa. Nice to see you, Teresa. Roman Mueller. Gabe Campbell strolling around. Looks like a clear sky. Hey, we're going to be here at 4:30 Pacific time, too, every Tuesday. More under a different banner, non-duality, but yeah. This the usual suspects. Saraswati. Oh, in India right now, I guess. Wow, nice to see her. She's in the mother country. Linda Marie in North Carolina. Nice to see you. John K, as always. Thanks a lot. GG down there. Maggie Powell. Nice hat there. Mr. Portugal, Vlad. How are you, Vlad? Nice to see
Good, thank you.
you. Get a haircut, Vlad?
Yes, I get a haircut from a friend.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Joseph, maybe you should save some of it for Chris, Vlad.
Okay.
We can transplant some of that hair into Chris's skull.
Or Steve.
or Steve. Yeah. Who wants? All right. We're gonna start the bidding on Vlad's hair.
5 cents.
Vlad's hair. Going once. Steve? No.
5 cents.
5 cents. 5 cents. 5 cents a strand. All right.
Plus shipping costs.
And shipping costs. All right. And you'll get a free bottle of moisturizer. if you do it now. Joseph C., our man in France. Nice to see you. Stephen Mack, on having never left. John K., Annette, traveling through life successfully. Gabe, again, we got that. I think I got everyone. Hey, listen, Marl, pleasure to see all of you. And drink from the water of certainty. Yes? Yeah. Yes. All right. Thank you. See you guys. Bye-bye.